So um, this discussion is going to be sort of a companion to the conversation that I just had talking about demanding that Josh Shapiro hand count ballots in Pennsylvania in the general election in the fall. And I'm breaking it down this way to just make it easier for folks to follow and digest. And if you're sharing the videos, which I strongly encourage you to do, then you can break down into pieces what you're sending out. These things are going out live on a couple of different Facebook pages. All of these videos, Conversations with Sam, go to a YouTube channel, and that YouTube channel is called Sam Faddis Conversations with Sam. So it's easy for you to find. So you can not only share internally on Facebook, but if you go to the actual YouTube channel, Conversations with Sam, obviously you can not just view it there, but then you can use that link to send to people on all sorts of other social media or email or whatever. Just send them the link to the thing. So in other words, these videos are not restricted to Facebook. To address the concern that's been raised to me many times about why we're putting these videos up on YouTube, I have my own issues with YouTube. In fact, for And Magazine, which my wife and I run, we put all our videos up on Rumble. YouTube remains more widely used, and quite frankly, who uses it breaks down a little bit based on political affiliation. So a lot of sort of more hardcore conservative folks are on Rumble, but the general public uses YouTube. And it is our deliberate intention with these videos to reach out to people who don't yet have religion, to use the old-fashioned expression. And therefore, we made a conscious choice to use YouTube with all the issues associated for that reason, because it is accessible to and appealing to people that were maybe trying to get to wake up. Okay, that was the thought process, and it was a conscious thought process when we decided to put these up on YouTube, which basically boils down to reaching as wide an audience as possible. Okay. All disclaimers out of the way, or explanations out of the way. Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, and I guess the man who wishes to be president, has announced the creation of this election integrity task force, or election threats task force, under the command of Al Schmidt, a guy who should know all about threats to elections, in Harrisburg. And he claims this is because he wants to have a fair election. Okay, in 2024. As I noted in the separate video, we got a lot of skepticism, but okay, let's just take you at your word, Josh. If you really care about that kind of thing, then hand count the friggin' ballots. That'll address the problem. Let's just take a moment, though, on this video to just go a little bit into detail on this whole election threats task force thing. So what is this thing? I mean, I suspect it smells really bad to you, and ultimately, when you're all done listening to this, you're probably going to find out it's just as bad as you thought it was. But what exactly are we talking about? When this was rolled out by the governor, and I'm going to be referring here to an article that I wrote a couple of weeks ago, at least, going into detail on this. It's called The Witch Hunt Begins in Pennsylvania, and it's available in And Magazine, amdmagazine.substack.com. So I'm going to refer to this to make sure I keep my facts straight. But you can go to this article and read the whole thing at length, and there are citations throughout, and you can do your own research, as you always should. The Witch Hunt Begins in Pennsylvania at andmagazine.substack.com, andmagazine.substack.com. Full disclosure, that magazine, online magazine, is run by my wife and I. No, this is not behind a paywall. No, I'm not getting paid by you accessing this article. You can go online and read this for free and access all the information. So, yes, that's my magazine. And no, I'm not getting paid because you go there. All right. So what the heck is this election integrity, election threats task force, whatever the name is? Okay, well, when Josh trotted this whole thing out, he didn't really go into any great detail. And the Secretary of State didn't go into any great detail about what's the deal here. But when the Federalist, which is a significant conservative online publication, dug into this, they got the state to admit that, look, really what this means is we're going to be cooperating with something called CISA at DHS. So CISA as in CISA with DHS. DHS is obviously the Department of Homeland Security. CISA is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. So what this boils down to is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is going to cooperate with these guys in DHS on election security. All right, well, that's fascinating. So what's the story with CISA? Well, CISA is really, really bad news. You probably have heard generally about all of this information coming out about how the government has been working with all kinds of online social media giants and Google and everybody else to censor free speech, to bury stories that they don't like. The whole issue of classifying things as misinformation or disinformation and just censoring people and stomping all over the First Amendment. Okay, well, CISA, this is the entity that has been doing this. These guys are actively being investigated by the Congress of the United States. These guys are being sued by a whole bunch of people, including attorney generals of a bunch of states, and expressly for violating the First Amendment. In the article, you will see that I referenced before, you'll see some extensive quotes, particularly from the Attorney General of Louisiana, talking about what they have discovered that CISA has been up to. Let me just read you a piece of that. I don't want to bore you by reading the whole thing, but this is the Attorney General of Louisiana, so the senior law enforcement legal officer of the state of Louisiana, officially commenting on what they have discovered CISA has been up to. This is a quote. To understand the framework of these activities, we must first look at the way censorship has been approached by those actively engaged in it. For example, CISA, an agency within the Department of Homeland Security, has classified the thoughts, ideas, and beliefs of the American public as critical infrastructure. In an effort to control, manage, and maintain these cognitive assets, CISA serves as a switchboard for sending disfavored information from state and local officials to the necessary social media company to ensure content moderation policies are applied. As a result, America's cognitive infrastructure can be maintained in the same way that DHS might protect the nation's physical infrastructure. Okay, I'm not going to go on and belabor that, but here's the critical point. Department of Homeland Security was given the charter to defend critical infrastructure. You probably have a crazy idea that that means they should be stopping terrorists from blowing up airports and bridges and nuclear power plants. The extent to which they're actually doing that successfully, that's a topic for another day. They have decided, and their head of CISA has said this very publicly, they've decided that they also now have the charter to defend something they call cognitive infrastructure. I am not kidding. So basically, they've classified Americans, the thoughts of Americans, and the speech of Americans as critical infrastructure, and therefore given themselves a charter to control it and, quote, protect it, unquote, which means if somebody says something they don't like, they can censor you because they're protecting your cognitive infrastructure. All right, that sounds like something so wacky that it sounds like a conspiracy theory, and yet I go to the article, you'll find the links. You can find these people online talking about this in videos, and it's discussed ad nauseum in these congressional hearings and in the lawsuit. Further quote, American taxpayers are unwittingly financing the growth and power of a censorship industrial complex run by America's scientific and technical elite, which endangers our liberties and democracy. Okay. You think I'm kidding about that this task force is working with these CISA guys? By the way, if you think the fact that there's been a bunch of scrutiny on CASA means they've shut down, forget about that. They're going great guns. They're doubling down, as you can see by the creation of this task force. Secretary of Commonwealth Al Schmidt himself, the guy right here in Pennsylvania who gave Philly to the Dems in 2020 and got his medal from Biden, and he's now running this task force. Okay, he straight up, in recent years, we've seen bad faith actors attempt to exploit these changes, meaning electoral changes, by spreading lies and baseless conspiracy theories and attempting to delegitimize our safe, secure, and accurate elections. Okay, task force is working together to develop and coordinate plans to combat this dangerous information. Okay, here's the bottom line. Again, you can go read the article and you can look at all the citations. I encourage you to do so. Again, I'm not getting paid for you doing that. The bottom line is this. The election threats, election integrity task force, whatever you want to call it, is expressly set up to wire the Secretary of State's office in Pennsylvania. That's the office that supposedly is supposed to make sure you have safe elections. To wire them directly into the heart of the federal government's censorship efforts that are not being shut down, that are being doubled down on. So that's what this is. Any attempt to claim otherwise is just flat out a lie. That's what this task force is. This is the thought police in action on your dime. And the purpose of this is to censor anybody, shut down anybody, bury anybody who tries to get at the truth of what's going on in the election. Bury them, obviously, in the sense of burying the story and burying the information and just employing the cone of silence so nobody hears anything you say. So read the story, do your own research, follow the links. This is terrifying stuff, people. And it's been trotted out so that it is ready to rock and roll for November. After you're done with that, I'd encourage you to reach out to every elected official you have and demand to know why the heck this is being allowed to go on. Okay, why is this possible? Where are the people screaming bloody murder about this? Talk to you soon.